What's up guys, it's Jay back again with Tech Everything, and today we're going to be making some upgrades to my S4 Mini build that I made a couple months ago. Going to be making it a little more powerful for gaming and rendering. So if you didn't see the first build, I recommend you checking it out here in the little eye. You could get a feel for what I was doing. That system featured a 1050 Ti as well as a 6700. So I'm going to be upgrading pretty much all the internal components except for the motherboard. I'm going from a 6700 to a 7700, which if you saw my video comparing them, will be a moderate little jump. I'm also going from a 1050 Ti to a 1060, which is going to be a pretty substantial jump, and 32 gigs of RAM from 16. I will also be switching my boot drive from an 850 EVO M.2 to an NVMe Intel 600P and upgrading the internal cabling to shorter black SATA cables that will make the system look much nicer. For the more powerful system, I had two options when I wanted to switch the power supply. I could upgrade to either the HDPlex 300 or the HDPlex 160, which I've done videos on both. You can check those out as well. I'm going to use the 160 for this build. If I was gonna use like a 1070 or 1080 or something, I would definitely use the HDPlex 300. But for this system, the 160 will be perfectly fine for my system that peaks around 200 watts. So I'm looking to get better gaming performance, better rendering performance, and make a rig that is tiny but also VR capable. So let's take a quick look at the install. Internally, the switch to the HDPlex 160 from a Pico 160, as well as switching the SATA cables from standard 12-inch to a shorter 6-inch black rounded cable, created a much cleaner interior. I used zip ties and with the little sticky patches to really clean up the cables and route them all against the side walls of the case. In the future, I may use some vinyl dye to just black out all the wires completely, but with them tucked neatly to the sides, I really can't see them from the outside, and I think they look acceptable for now. In addition to the internal upgrades, externally I also added some 1/2-inch feet that will give the GPU a little better airflow. It also makes the Mini look like it's floating a little bit, which I think is pretty cool. So what kind of performance gains did I see from making these upgrades? Well, let's take a look at the benchmarks and you can see exactly the type of performance that you'll get from a system like this. So as you see in the benchmarks, I saw some pretty substantial gains when it comes to graphics, no surprise there. CPU bound tasks were not as impressive since the processors are so close, but there was an improvement there. I also will note that the 7700 does feel snappier in regular use than the 6700. I don't know if I'm just being crazy. I did go back and forth, and for whatever reason, it did feel a little bit snappier. Now on to temperatures. Temperatures are very important, especially when you're doing a small form factor build. The 7700 and the Zotac 1060 had no problem cooling themselves and giving proper performance. Under normal heavy load, you won't see temperatures over around 80°C for the 7700, and with the 1060, if you do overclock it, you will experience some throttling unless you set the fan all the way to 100%, which was absurdly loud. I wouldn't do that. So maybe keep it at either its stock settings or do a slight overclock and you'll be fine. Noise levels are very important to me. I do not like loud systems. I also do not like large systems. Those two things generally don't mix. But if you balance your fans right, you set your fan curves, you optimize for noise levels and performance at the same time, you can get a nice, quiet, and compact system. So first up, we'll listen to the system at idle and then under full load. So as you see, totally manageable noise level. It really is inaudible under anything but complete silence in your room. If you're playing any game, listening to any music under load, you will not hear the fans pretty much at all. So that's the system. I'm happy with these upgrades for sure. They're giving me increased performance across the board in pretty much every test and in practical use. If you want to see a build similar to this, or really not similar to this at all, just a beastly build in the S4 Mini, head over to the Not From Concentrate YouTube channel. Josh did a video where he puts a 1080 Mini and a 7700K inside the S4 Mini. It's really cool. Has a custom bezel. You should definitely check that out. This will probably be my last pre-Ryzen build. I doubt that I'll be doing any more Intel builds before that. Hopefully when Ryzen drops, I can get some cool Mini-ITX boards and do a system with that. If you want to know any more information on this build, you can head over to the article on the website. I'll link that below. I'll also drop links for all the components I use in the video here today below as well. As always guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you liked the video. I'm Jay, this is Tech Everything. I'll see you next time.